Oh, we're live. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of P2G Live. My name is Majid Waris, and I'm your host. We're back here in Birmingham at the head office of the Pathway Group, and with me we have another guest, a special guest, somebody who we're going to be learning lots from today. She has been dubbed the media matchmaker. I guess that makes you the Cilla Black of PR.
Oh, yes, I'll go with that.
Shall I be Al Graham for tonight? Yes. We have Cilla Black and Al Graham back here on our screens tonight. And we're going to be learning lots more about PR, talking to journalists, more about our businesses and how we can possibly catapult our branding straight into the media.
Yeah.
So welcome to P2G Live.
Thank you for having
Rachel,
me.
thanks for coming down. Before we get into the technical stuff, share a bit about yourself, about your background, how you got here, a bit about BlueBoo Media, because that's the company name, right?
It is,
BlueBoo
yeah.
Media.
Okay.
Tell us a bit about yourself.
Thank you. Well, I'm an accidental PR person.
Oh, okay.
Let's put it like that first. So I've been in business for 22 years. So I've always worked for myself, always worked in the media. So I started off in radio, selling advertising. So I understand the SME market. And then I had a full service ad agency. So I kind of looked after people's advertising for them. And then when my little girl was quite young, I set up a magazine called Mums in Control.
Oh, okay.
And this was so I could achieve the work-life balance, and I franchised it around the country. And this business was absolutely flying. It was doing extremely well. And so I knew sales, I knew marketing, I knew advertising, but I didn't understand PR. I didn't know what it kind of did or how to approach it all. So when I had Mums in Control, the business was flying high. So I appointed a PR agency because I had no idea. So I paid £1,500 a month for a PR agency. I know, it was back in the days when we used to have money.
Wow.
And they got me on GMTV at the time with the lovely Lorraine Kelly, and I got featured in the Daily Mail, and it was like, wow, this PR stuff really does work. And I could see the difference it made to my website traffic, to me recruiting new franchisees. I could see the power of PR.
How long ago was that?
That was in 2008, about 2008. And then in 2009, 2010, if you remember, we had the credit crunch.
Yeah.
And everything in my business got challenged overnight. And the first thing that got cut was marketing budgets. Print was going through the roof. My franchisees didn't want to be franchisees anymore. It was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? But obviously as business owners, we have to carry on. So I went along to a seminar and learned how to do my own PR because I had a taste of it.
Yeah.
And I came back from this seminar and I saw this guy speak on stage from America, and he taught me how to launch my own national day. So I went back and followed the principles and I launched National Working Mums Day. And from one press release, I got featured on 70 radio stations, 15 of which were live interviews. I had national, regional and local coverage, and I generated over £32,000 of cash in my bank. So it's like, this PR stuff really does work.
Yeah.
And that, you know, I haven't looked back since, really. I had to close the business down, sadly. I couldn't keep it going. Excuse me, I've got a cough.
Yeah, we forgot to mention, Rachel isn't putting this on. This is not
Theresa May.
This is a genuine cough.
Today, so I didn't want to
actually banned Rachel from speaking to anyone throughout the whole day today, just so that she can speak with us tonight.
Yeah. So apologies, but so I learned how to do my own PR then, and I learned the mistakes. Yeah. And that's now, you know, I closed that business down sadly in 2012. And then I started teaching people how to do their own PR, and it's just grown from there. So I'm not a PR agency. I teach people how to do PR, and then I connect them to the journalists.
Excellent. You know, the first time I came across you, you did an interview with one of our colleagues, a member of the Pathway2Grow, Naeem Arif of NA Consulting. If you're watching, hi Naeem. And he, you know, you had a really good conversation with him, and we were toying with the different terminology we used in the industry. And today you've also mentioned, and we have both mentioned, the world of PR and the words PR. Yeah. What do they actually mean? What does PR mean?
Well, it's public relations, isn't it? And it's about relationships with people. I always think PR is perception is reality, the way I like to use it. It's whatever you put out there is perceived, it becomes reality.
Yeah,
you know, so it's whatever you want it to be. But, you know, PR traditionally is public relations, and it's building relationships with people. Yeah. And it's one of those, it's like, I don't really know what it stands for, because as I say, I'm not one of those lovey-dovey PR people. I don't come from a PR agency. I'm actually dyslexic. So if I can do this, anybody can do this. You know, but it's understanding that you don't need to have a PR agency to get publicity. Now, don't get me wrong, PR agencies do a great job. I'm not here to say they don't. They do, because they did a great job for me. So sorry. But if you want to take PR in-house, or you want to connect to the journalist yourself and have that kind of relationship, then it's really worthwhile looking at. And the thing is, it's practically free to do. It's fun, and it does raise credibility. It opens doors, but it does create new customers for you.
Great. How have you noticed PR changing? We were having a discussion before this interview. Before this, well, it's not even an interview; it's a conversation. Yeah. Before this conversation, we were already having a discussion about how things have changed in the realms of digital marketing and PR, and generally getting your branding out there, and how digital media has played a pivotal role in the way the whole dimensions of marketing and PR have changed. How have you noticed that change? Because the reason I ask is, traditionally, we have seen PR in terms of the news and journalists wanting to get news stories or sports stories. I guess the outlets are still there. Digital media must have had some kind of an impact on it.
Yeah.
Talk us through about that.
It's changed for two reasons. Yes, with the explosion of digital PR. So there's traditional PR and digital PR. We'll come on to that in a minute. Okay. But one of the biggest reasons it's changed is because when we had the credit crunch and the crash, even the media outlets were squeezed, their budgets got cut. And that has continued all the way along. So whereas a radio studio, for example, that might produce a radio show would have 5 staff working on it, it's probably got 2. It's got a quarter of the staff or 30% of the staff that it used to have, yet they've still got to output the same show. Yeah. So the newspaper group's exactly the same. The Birmingham Post-Mail. I was speaking to Mark Reeves just 2 days ago, editor of the Birmingham Post-Mail. It's changed. He couldn't send someone. I've got a meeting at the university with journalists. He didn't have the time to send anyone out to support because they're so busy. So it's changed in the fact that their budgets are tight. But it's changed also with the digital PR because now everything's online as well. So they're having to. So a traditional journalist, I interviewed Enda Mullen, who's the journalist for Coventry Telegraph. He's been a journalist for 20 odd years. I've known him for all this time. And he's a business reporter and he's done automotive. And he said, the thing is now, Rach, we have to do social media as well. Not only do we have to write the articles, we are social media journalists too. Right. So we have to do Facebook Lives. And he's like, I've got to get the article out. I've got to do a Facebook Live. But this is great for anyone that's in business or anyone that's an expert or an influencer in their own right, because the media are crying out for content. They're crying out for people that can help them with their stories. So it's changed for the good for us, but it's hard for the media outlets. So they're grateful if you can approach them in the right way.
Is there any kind of story which or they wouldn't want? I mean, for example, is there any industry which doesn't apply to what the journalists may not be interested in? I mean, because I'm thinking from a business point of view. Consultancy, you can understand if you're a specialist consultant in a specific sphere or an area, a specialist area, then you can go out and try and be perceived as the go-to person for journalists in that specific field. But what about, the businesses who have tangible products? What about businesses who have a car garage, for example, or a shop front? How does it apply to them?
The way you've got to think about PR is from an emotional point of view. Okay. And this is the biggest thing, if you can take anything away from this interview, is PR is about telling a story. So advertising, if you place an advert in a newspaper, it's logical, it's with the head. You want to put, this is where we are, this is our telephone number, this is our product. Really, that's what most people want out of PR. Yeah. But it isn't that, that's not that, so that's where most people will go wrong. Yeah. Most people will write a press release that's really just an advert. Yeah. So advertising sells, PR tells. It tells a story, and it's about an emotional connection. So you talk about a garage, for example, who might want to promote his MOTs and his tyres for winter and stuff like that. No one's really interested that we've got these 6-inch tyres in or whatever they are, the tread or whatever it is. They don't care, but they want to know, don't have an accident down the Warwick Road in winter time, and these are the 6 steps that you need to know to make sure you're safe in the community.
Okay, so
it's that emotional. It's the emotional community. It's you've got to match your audience with the media outlets. So PR isn't about ego. It's about what you're trying to achieve out of it. So are you looking for regional customers, national customers? And think about, what are your customers? Where do they read? What do they listen to? Excuse me. And then you've got to match the story. So if it is, the Financial Times, or if it's the Huffington Post, or if it's Radio 2, you've got to match the kind of story to the feel of that audience. And it's about an emotional connection first and foremost.
When you say emotional connection, from a sales perspective, I mean, I do some sales training, and we always talk about this. There's a very famous quote, you know, people buy on emotion and justify with logic. But when we talk about emotional selling, we go through emotional, well, sometimes even negative motivation, which motivates the negative. Potential negatives can motivate. And I think, you know, from a sales perspective and PR perspective, are you saying that if you are writing an article which evokes emotions of potential consequences or implications of not taking action in that, or in the storytelling format, is better than factual based in terms of
it's a bit different when it's different type of mediums or the different target markets. So if you were doing sales, you're more probably B2B. You want to get into the trade magazines. So it's perfectly acceptable then that you can talk on a B2B level from a technical point of view with your sales jargon. You might want to be doing sales training in manufacturing. So therefore you want to kind of use the terminology the manufacturers might use and use the language that they're going to use. So that sale will be very different to, I don't know, multi-level marketing for a franchise that does baby sign. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? So you've just got to adapt yourself and the way your language is to the audience that you're trying to reach.
It's very interesting. I mean, I had somebody ask me for my advice earlier today about something to do with multi-level marketing. So I'm just going to put this out there. If anybody has any questions you would like to ask Rachael, put them in the comment section. I have a lovely assistant behind the camera here who's going to write the questions and pass them over. You can ask Rachael live whilst we're doing this, we're having this conversation. MLM, multi-level marketing. Does PR apply to them in any specific way? It
applies to everybody, because
is anybody who it doesn't apply to?
Is there anyone? I don't think so. Unless you, not really. No, it's making sure that you have got the audience and you're speaking to the right media outlet that matches your audience. And that's the two together. So it's not going to apply to you if you can't think of a story or an angle, but I can help you with that. And most people kind of go like, I don't know how to do PR because they don't know the angles and the stories. And what I would suggest with that is be topical. See what your competitors are doing. Set up a Google alert on your industry and see what the industry knowledge is, and then you represent it from a regional point of view. Follow the national news trends and you report on it regionally, and become the influencer in your own right, because then the journalists will want to associate with you. So anyone can do PR, and I don't mean that flippantly, but it is an opportunity for anybody. Even if you just want your customers from a regional point of view, just isn't that, you know, that's just no mean feat. That's great, but focus on your community news. You know, they have a business section, they'll have a property section. Mostly it's kind of community led. So you've got to think of it, if you want regional press, you've got to give it a community regional angle. So if you've just, I don't know, created this new fantastic widget in Solihull, you need to create a Solihull story around it or something. So, but no, it will apply to most people.
I think one of the key things that you've mentioned is becoming an influencer. Tell us a bit more about this topic of becoming an influencer. How does one become an influencer?
It's a massive, massive buzzword. It has been really for the last 18 months now in PR.
Who are we looking to influence?
So you're an influencer. So you're probably an influencer. Pathway2Grow is an influencer in their own right because they're building a community. If you're an influencer, you have your own community. And that's where the magic happens now. Just to put it into perspective, there are 76,000 journalists across the UK. There's 44,000 media outlets. So a media outlet is a radio station, a printed, a press, online. There's over 760,000 influencers now. I know this because I can search them through the media database that I have. So this is why now is such a great opportunity, because things like this, we're sharing content, we're sharing opportunities. Hopefully I'll offer value as an influencer in PR to your audience. So I've become an influencer in what I talk about. Most people that are watching this are an influencer in something, whether it's beauty, whether it's health and safety. They are their own influencer. They've got their own community, and that's where the value is really, because people are genuinely watching these Facebook Lives now rather than going to, you know, the trade magazine, because they're getting more out of it. And that's where you want to be perceived as the influencer. So I think you mentioned actually after the following when you saw us talk, when I was talking before on the Facebook Live, you changed your profile slightly on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that was an interesting one because after I watched you and Naeem talk, and I was thinking about what it is that I was doing and where I was at that moment in time. I was back here in the UK for my consultancy contract in the Middle East, but I hadn't actually actively mentioned that the specific project that I worked on for several reasons. And I thought, you know what, I don't know whether I'll be going back yet, so I wasn't actively looking for new big clients at the time. I was just servicing the needs of the existing clients. So I just changed something in my title on LinkedIn and mentioned the project, well, alluded to the project with a picture. And somebody picked up on that. And I got approached by one of the international publications asking me to write for them. And this was a publication which was pushing magazines out over in the Middle East, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia. So I became an author for their publication, which was interesting. Just off the back of that bit of information.
But the thing is, the word influencer really has just replaced expert. You know, an expert is a great source of information. So is an influencer.
But here's the thing: people don't tend to. Well, I think some people, in my opinion, I would say most people who are quite humble or whatever, you know, they don't like to call themselves experts.
Absolutely.
They prefer other people to call them experts.
You've got to be brave when it comes to PR. You know, it's like anything in your social media. You've got to put yourself out there. You're brave if you go networking. You know, it's quite a scary thing to do. But all we're doing, it's exactly the same thing. We're asking you to network with journalists. Journalists aren't that scary. But they desperately, no, they're really not. But they want experts. They want people, you know, in their little black book. I was speaking to the commissioning editor yesterday at ITV Central News. And they're constantly looking for new experts because they roll the same experts out all the time. They want people from different ethnic backgrounds. They want they want more women, definitely, from different areas, from different kind of. They don't just want the professor. They want the person working on the shop floor. So they want different experts all of the time. So the biggest thing is you've just got to say you're the expert. And if I chatted to you or chatted to anyone that was watching this and we had a coffee and I said, tell me about your business, I know for a fact you will be able to talk from the heart about your business. You will know a lot more than I do about your business. That makes you the expert. And you've just got to be brave to put yourself forward because they're not there to trick you. They don't know what they don't know. One top tip I can give to you, if you ever do like a radio interview or you're interviewed by, you know, a newspaper editor or something like that, the great thing you can do is give them a Q&A sheet. Because they don't have the time to do the research. So give them the questions.
Top tip, guys.
And give them the answers.
Wow.
You know, make it easy for them. I would say provide a bio sheet, a press release, and a Q&A sheet, especially in radio. Because they're like, oh, wow, okay. They won't always naturally ask you that because also you don't want to sell too much. But help them out and tell them the things you want to talk about.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Now, some people who are watching tonight, they might be thinking to themselves, you know what? I don't know whether I can become an influencer. Do you have, Rachel, any kind of examples you can give us of where you've possibly helped any business person who was looking to get into the mainstream media and it worked for them, putting some simple strategies in place? I remember you mentioning somebody who dubbed themselves as an expert in something about the domain name of being an expert in something in particular, and they now are seen as the expert in that particular field. We were talking to, we had Brad Burton from 4N, founder of 4N Network. He did a keynote speech at the Chutney and Chat event, and he was talking about how he just dubbed himself UK's #1 motivational speaker, business speaker, and everyone now refers to him as the UK's #1 motivational speaker just by titling himself that. Do you have any examples that you can use?
It does help. I mean, certainly, if you've got like a catchphrase that people are going to refer you to, you need to make sure that you're optimized. That, you know, if you're going to be the social media queen or the PR queen, that, you know, or the PR princess or whatever it's going to be, or the health and safety man, you know, there's a lot of on the.
Not so glamorous. You could just be a man. Mention queens and princesses, and then come to the health and safety bloke.
So register it because they like stuff like that, you know, and how to introduce. So register that domain if it's available, or certainly have it pointing. But the other thing to do, again, perception is reality. If you want to get interviewed by the media, show them that you're media savvy. Put a press page on your website.
What's a press page?
A press page is just simply to show, this is who I am. These are the topics I can talk about. here are my contact details. And if you've had any publicity, just perhaps put the brand and the logo of where you've been featured. Don't necessarily feature the story, because you might want to use that story in the future, and they don't want old news. They always want new news, you know, so don't kind of cut your nose off to spite your face by putting the old news on there. But if you've been featured on BBC WM, put it as heard on or featured on BBC WM or the Huffington Post. And then, you know, by association then, one thing leads on to another. But you have to put yourself forward as the influencer and start saying you are an influencer.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you probably are. Yeah. Or you should be.
You should be, yeah. How does one get themselves their first gig and get in front of the mainstream media? What are your top tips would you give to the audience?
I would start with 5 media outlets. That you would start with your top 5. Where is it you want to be, and for what reason? So, you know, where are your customers? So if they're regional customers, start with your regional press. If it's B2B, start with any B2B press in the regional area. If it's, you know, you've got a new health product and you want to get it to health journalists at the, I don't know, the Times or the Guardian or the Daily Mail, go for that and build those personal relationships. PR does take a little bit of time. There are tools, you know, and I can help with people if they want that. There's PR agencies subscribe to what's called media request services and a media database. So there's 2 ways to get PR. You can either send a press release or write an introductory email and send it to the media. All of you guys can do that. Take a bit of time to say, right, I want to be in the Guardian, so I'm in health or I'm in technology. Phone up and say, who's the technology editor? Who's the health journalist for the Guardian? Because they will give you that information. And just start with your top 5. A great place to start, I'm a big believer, is your local BBC radio station. Because BBC are 60 to 70% talk. So they need content.
When you say 60 to 70% talk?
I mean, it's 30%, 40% music, and the rest is chat. So they sit down and they plan and they go, what are we going to write about? And I know this for a fact because I know radio producers. So they'll sit down. So tomorrow they're going to be talking about the budget. And they're going to want to know who can comment about the budget. How has it affected their business? I haven't watched the budget today, sorry, because I'm very well, so I don't know what the outcome is. I think you're talking about with some about tax or something on something. There was on everything. But,
well, there were a couple of different things that were going on. People were discussing. One of the things that somebody was discussing was, and again, I just caught this on one of the groups on our networking group. Somebody was mentioning something to do with stamp duties for buying properties. New buyers for up to, I think, is it 30,000 or 300,000? I think £300,000 property. You know, they don't have to pay stamp duty. So if we take that as an example.
So property experts, for example, then they will want to speak to property experts. So a great tip to do is possibly go into the Facebook page, because they all have their Facebook groups or the Twitter, and go, I'm a property expert, happy to give you some comments tomorrow, reference the budget. So you'll probably be on that radio station within seconds.
Brilliant. So journalists have their groups, or are you referring to the property group?
So for example, BBC WM will have its own Facebook group. So if you want to get onto BBC WM, start connecting and going into that and posting and saying, I'm a property expert, happy to talk about the budget if you want to talk about it. Or I've even got an idea for a story, because the producers are reading the Twitter feeds or reading the Facebook pages, and that's where they get a lot of their stories from as well.
Is this where hashtags work?
Hashtags do work. Now this is the second thing. When I employed a PR agency, I had an email come through one day asking if I wanted to be featured in the Daily Mail. I'm like, yes. You know, because the Daily Mail was perfect for me, for my audience. And then I read the email, and it just come in from a service. It didn't come from the PR agency. The PR agency forwarded it on. And it was a media request service. So journalists put out what's called a PR request or a journo request. Have you heard of that? Have you heard of the hashtag journo request?
Tell us more about that.
You'll see it tomorrow now. If you do, go on Twitter and Google hashtag journo request. It's where journalists will put a shout out, I'm looking for a property expert. Can anybody house? Hashtag journo request. Now, we offer that as a service. So we provide these journo requests to our clients, and we filter them all into the sectors, health, beauty, finance. But what's happened is the whole world now knows that this hashtag. So there's so much spam. There's probably 50% spam to 50% genuine journo requests. But this is where it's changed so much, because the stories are so fast. The journalists need quick reaction. So you can either write your story and send it in, or you can just react to what's called a journo request.
Very interesting. So really, anybody in any field can, in theory, become the go-to person for the journalists if they've positioned themselves properly in the first place. And to do that, to follow those steps that you've just mentioned.
And think about, if you're stuck for stories, think about what is it you do in your business. Who have you helped? What are your success stories? Whoever you've helped and whatever your success stories, use that as a case study, because journalists love case studies. They also love surveys. Put a survey out there, you know, especially the BBC. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. The BBC love surveys. They love results. And again, this is from my own experience. Don't think you've got to have a massive database to get a survey published. You don't.
Okay.
I've had my survey results published when just less than 100 mums have taken part. Okay. But the way they've overcome it is, say, 60% of mums feel they're not achieving the work-life balance. So they use percentages, but they love surveys. And surveys are a great way to open doors. So let's say if you're business to business and you're the HR manager, and you're going to do a survey for HR today. I don't even know if that exists. You could go to your community to say, look, we're working with HR today, or you can knock on your prospect's door and say, we're doing a survey with HR today, try and get into the door gatekeeper. We're doing a survey with the Guardian or whatever or whatever, or the HR today. Would you like to take part? It's a great way to open doors as well.
Wow.
So surveys are brilliant. You can have so much fun with PR. I mean, I know you're on time.
Continue.
It does take a bit of time, and there's a bit of structure to it. But once you learn to know the structure and the mistakes not to take, you'll be flying, and you get the bug for it, and it opens doors. For me, I was asked to do. So I'm not an academic at all. I've just about got 4 O-levels and 2 A-levels, and I was asked to organise a Mumpreneur Summit for the Equality and Human Rights Commission. Wow. So there I was, sat down in London with all these very influential people, and I felt like I wasn't worthy. You know, this whole thing, I'm not an influencer, I'm not an expert, but I was worthy. I'd earned my stripes, I've done a good job. You've just got to believe in yourself, but it really does create opportunities.
Fantastic, excellent. You know, this might not be directly related to the topic at hand, but because it's PR, I'm just going to throw it in for the sake of it anyway. I think it's a good question to ask. In your opinion, because we have this discussion between us as business owners or within our networking spheres, and we talk about how you mentioned perception is reality, right? And then how people behave in the public domain, whether it's social media, digital media platforms. Some people have a habit of, like, for example, swearing in social media, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. So there's a lot of debates that take place. One of the questions which always I ponder about, and I think it would be a good one to ask, you know, other people who are influencers within PR themselves, or people who are experts within PR. I know it's not that you're not that way inclined, you're this way, but what's your opinion on bad PR? You know the saying, there's no PR that's bad PR.
Yeah, there is.
This is the question I wanted to ask you.
Okay, there's 2 things on that. In terms of your language and you use, the journalists do like controversy. They really do. So if you are if you're going to speak your mind, they will love that. They really will. But you've got to be careful. Is that the perception you want to give overall? PR isn't ego. It really isn't. It's about results, and it's reflecting your values of your business and what you stand for. So don't go out there just to say, if a journalist will say, you know, and try and badge you on something, don't get bitten by it if you don't want to. And also, there's etiquette with PR. Don't mention your business too many times. The job of the journalist is to introduce you. Your job is to be the great source of information. But if you can be controversial, absolutely, they love it. They really do. And then the other thing was, it's gone completely out of my mind what I was going to say now.
You may have sort of an example where bad PR is.
I guess bad PR, yes. What I would ask you to do is, yes, you can get bad PR without a doubt. And one of the great tips to do is write down every single worst case scenario question that anyone would say.
I haven't been watching.
You haven't been watching? Well, I have anyway.
Which kid is
that? He's a big influencer. He's got millions of people following him. I don't know what his name is. He's a young kid. He's a YouTube sensation.
Okay.
He's been kicked out of the jungle for, I think he's put some racist comments. But when he was 16, so he was very, very young.
Wow.
But what they've done is they've actually pulled him out of the jungle because he needs a right to reply with the journalists. So the journalists and the media are having a field day because he's in the jungle. So he's said things. So it has it is bad for him.
Yeah.
All publicity is good publicity, so they say. I'm not quite sure.
Me neither.
You still need to protect yourself. There's loads of PR agencies out there that will do reputation management, and they do it for a reason.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that word, because reputation. I do reputational risk management, yes. and I've delivered talks on this subject, and it's something that I feel quite passionate about. And I get asked about different strategies for protecting reputation from a corporate standpoint, where we think about this reputation influence through social media activity, for example, is a classic example where people have represented an organization. They're on social media and they've said something which they shouldn't have, and they're still seen as a representative of that organization. Things like putting policies and procedures in place from an organizational perspective to protect or prevent people from saying things whilst they've still been associated with that particular organization. Yeah. So reputational risk management falls quite nicely with the reputational risks that you've mentioned. And bad PR. So yeah, I'm with you on that. And there are ways, I guess, people use these kind of strategies. Well, they'll do something in a way which gets the public talking, but it's a PR stunt, as they call it. They call it a stunt.
Yeah.
But it's not reputation damaging as such. But I suppose it's done cleverly and thought through properly, I guess. I think that's the difference.
I think if you're going to do something like that, and also sometimes some people have got a very personal story to share. You might need a bit of support with that, because the journalist's job is to look at it from all angles. They're not there just to, they're grateful that you're there, but if they pick up on one little thing, they might want to go down that path that you haven't told them that story, and they're like, oh my God, they might get a coup for it, and it's like, wow, that's a scoop of the night. Yeah. We're going to go down that path. You need to look at everything all the way around, good, bad, the ugly, about your business and what you do. And what your industry does. You don't need to know everything about your industry, but certainly what you do. And if it is sensitive, or if you do think there's a backstory that could come out, then I would seek to work with somebody that is a specialist in that area. Yes. Or just start off gently with the smaller press, or one story, and just. You don't have to answer every question that the journalist. You have to become a good politician when you speak to journalists. So, you've got to have your key messages in mind. It is about you having your own agenda as well. And we see it with politicians. They do it very, very nicely. They never answer the question. They bring it round to exactly. So you've got to almost learn. So what I would recommend anyone that's watching this is write down all your worst case scenario questions. Get a friend to ask them for you, and you divert the question with a different answer.
Excellent. Well, I think we've got a lot of information there that we can possibly apply into our business straight away. Do we have any questions, by the way, from the? Oh, brilliant, excellent. So, my lovely assistant, you're not coming on camera. Okay. So we have Mohammed Nab is asking, Mohammed Nab, how can you use PR for community projects without being perceived as egotistical, but in the same time making information relevant?
From the community point of view, actually, it's whether you're trying to get national coverage or regional coverage or community coverage. If you're a community project, let's say it's community, I would say so. They probably are going to be interested, but you've got to think of it from the community angle. What's the emotional story there? A lot of charities think automatically they're going to get coverage because they're a charity. They won't. They still want the story behind it. So it's thinking about the emotional story. So whatever you're doing for the good of the community, what's that story? Have you shared that story recently? What's different about it? Who have you helped? Try and get case studies with community stories. Try and get facts and figures on how you've changed things. Brilliant. And just constantly keep inviting the press and the regional media. But approach radio, because they will probably love it at a debate, because they're all about community. The BBC have to tick so many boxes, but definitely give radio a go.
Excellent. Well, we hope that answers your question, Nab. We have another question from David. David asking, hi Rachel, I'm new to a massive network marketing platform going into hyper growth. Yeah, I am just starting out. Just want to burn out. Want to help people lose weight and gain energy through this revolutionary product. How would you go about it without causing any problems to the company or brand?
Well, you've got to be very careful with certain industries. You can't say certain things. So like insurance, you can't make certain claims, and probably with health.
Is that a pun on the word claim?
So you need to be careful with what you do with your business. And with multi-level marketing, sometimes you're restricted by what you're allowed to say and what PR or advertising you're allowed to do by your terms and conditions of who the company you're working with. But that said, just overall, you can talk about health, and you can talk about, so the door's open, the wind's going, so it's very windy outside, so you can talk about health. But something like that now, think about the time of the year. We're coming up to January. The journalists now are already saying what's new in health for January 2018.
Okay.
So think about, things that are...
People are, from January, people are like, new year, new me, new resolutions and new gym memberships and all that kind of thing. So now is a good time,
absolutely. Right? And anything that's in the news about anybody that's passed away or got an illness, if you feel that your product could help in some way, put yourself forward to discuss it. You do need to be careful and maybe make sure you've got insurance so that you are covered, and just check what you can
even as
say
an MLM
or can't
marketeer.
say. So I don't know the ins and outs, but I know sometimes.
I suppose if they're providing advice of some kind,
you have to be careful.
Or consultations.
Absolutely.
Then...
And just be careful with your language of what you use. And again, I would practice your key messages. So when you do an interview, probably have 2 or 3 key messages that you want to say, and a key message is a point that you want to get across, and have those ready and have them worded properly. But you should be absolutely fine. Whatever's topical or timely at the moment would be brilliant for that.
Excellent. Okay, so we have, I hope that answers your question, David. We have another question from our friend Cole Mahay. Cole is asking, what's the best way to make contact with reporters directly to talk about your business?
A number of ways. Do you remember that thing we used to use called the phone?
Oh, yeah?
We could pick up the phone!
Oh, nostalgic.
Yes. But one of my clients, she's a relationship expert, and she does dating for singles. She charges £10,000 a piece.
Yeah, we have plenty of people here in the audience who eyes have lit up.
And she was in London, and she picked up the journalist for the relationship editor of the Times, or the relationship journalist of the Times, and invited along to the event. The journalist went along. They gave him a double page spread. It had £150,000 value.
Wow.
So don't be scared to pick up the phone. Now, think about as well when the journalists are on deadline. So if, let's say, it's a newspaper that comes out on a Friday, you're not really going to want to approach the journalists on a Wednesday or a Thursday because they're going and putting the magazine or the newspaper to bed. You're not really going to want to approach them on a Friday afternoon when they put it to bed because they're mopping up all the so probably Monday, Tuesday. Don't be put off if they're short with you on the phone, and always have your email ready, because they'll always say, just send me an email. So you want to send it while it's fresh in their mind. Or definitely send an email or connect with them on their Twitter, compliment them, start reading them. Read one of their articles and send them an email. What a great article you wrote last week. Bribe them, send them something through the post. I've interviewed journalists. We're open to chocolate. We're open to things like that. They're human beings. They're on deadlines, but treat them with respect and offer them value. And you'll probably get interviewed.
Yeah, because I mean, we were talking about traditional PR and the new age digital PR. These guys and girls are now doing the work of so many more people than ever before. So they're running out of time. Like I suppose they're maybe this could be a good plug-in for Mike Gardner, is our friend, the Time Doctor.
Yes, I know Mike.
So Mike, get yourselves over to these journalists, man. Get them, get some of your workshops running for them. Okay, so that's all the questions. I don't think we have any more right now. If we have any more questions, I'm sure you'll be keeping an eye out on the live video.
Yeah.
We've been talking for the past 45 minutes nearly. So, Rachel, thank you very much once again for coming down and joining us here at P2G Live. Ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much what we've got time for today. What we do have is several more interesting people and guests that are going to be coming along and joining us in January and February, already booked up. More as well from March and April. But we need to kind of make sure that the guests that we have here are going to be providing value. So I'm sure there's no disagreeing on this, that Rachel has provided a lot of value for us tonight, and there's a lot of things that we can use, implement, and use for our business going forwards. Once again, thank you very much, Rachel. Good to have you with us, despite your sore throat and ill feelings. If people want to know more about you and get in touch with you, do you have anything that you can offer to them? And is there any other way they can get in touch with you? How's that going to happen?
They can go to the website, which is blueboomedia.co.uk. But I've just launched something. If they want to dip their toe in the water, I've just launched it 2 days ago, which is probably why I've got ill, actually, because as business owners, we work so hard. And it's the 6-week publicity challenge, and it comes with 100% guaranteed results.
Wow.
And what I'm going to do is basically, for any starter that's new to PR, I give you 6 weeks worth of PR training. You have homework to do. You send it back, and at the end of the challenge, I will send your press release out to up to 2,000 targeted journalists.
Wow.
Now, the price is just £97. It's just like a bit of a no-brainer, really. And if we don't get results for you and you don't think there's value, we'll give you money back as long as you follow the principles. Yeah. But that's a great place to start, because there's all the media training interviews there, there's all the templates and all that confidence you need. And there's 47 PR ideas in there. So if you're stuck for ideas, it's all in there.
Excellent. Thank you very much. There you have it. And you can head over to, is it BlueBoo Media? Yep. What's the website address?
BlueBooMedia.co.uk.
BlueBooMedia.co.uk. I'm sure Rachel can put a link into the description later on. For those of you who joined us, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll look forward to the next one. Have a good night.